Okay, Nilesh Shah of Envision Capital joins us on this important day when markets will be entirely focusing on the outcome of state elections. And Nilesh Shah would say, look, don't focus on state elections, focus on earnings, focus on other things. Those are important. But Nilesh, we may not like it as a long-term investor, like you may not, like to endorse the importance of state election. But from a market standpoint, this is something which markets are likely to focus on for a long time. Because Karnataka, many are touting it, could be an indicator of what lies ahead for rest of the states and also for the grand finale in 2019.
Yes, Nikunj, I think as long-term investors,
Nilesh, you know what, Nilesh, really apologies for this one. I'm going to ask you to just hold on just a little bit. Let's cut across to Sadanand Gowda. He's speaking to the press right now. Apologies for that interruption. Please go ahead with your thought.
Yeah, so clearly as long-term investors, we clearly do not attach too much importance to outcome of state elections. But I clearly believe that in the very short term, on a day-on-day basis, it does impact sentiment, it does impact the short-term outlook. And clearly there was a lot of importance being attached to the outcome of the Karnataka elections, given that the next 12 months are going to be really loaded months in terms of elections. And clearly the outcome of this state election would have been an indicator of things to come for elections to some of the states in December, as well as to the big general election in May 2019. So clearly I think it's going to be relevant, but our belief is that whatever is the outcome of this election, it will at best have some knee-jerk reaction on the way up or on the way down. And obviously, of course, after 24 or 48 hours, it will be back to growth, it will be back to earnings, and it will be back to outlook for the rest of the financial year. And I think that's going to be of paramount importance.
And I think we can cut across to my conversation, or my colleague Chandra Shrikant's conversation with Sadanand Gowda. He's clearly claiming that they will cross the halfway mark on their own and they won't need the JDS support. Let's hear out.
Just a couple of words. How are you feeling now, sir? People are saying it's going to be a hard verdict. Can you give us your take?
Pardon, I could not hear you.
Will it be a hard verdict, or are you still confident of crossing the halfway mark?
100% will cross the halfway mark. There is no need of alliance with any parties, including JDS.
How are you confident, sir? Because JDS is already inching towards the 35-seat mark. Some people say it might cross 40. Aren't you being overconfident here?
No, Congress seats are reducing now. It was about 85 in the early morning, but now it has come down 60. Even if the JDS gets 40, it will reach only 100.
Sir, but Congress is already talking to the JDS for an alliance. Their leaders are here. Ghulam Nabi Azad, Ashok Gehlot, Siddaramaiah has said he'll be okay for a Dalit chief minister. So, are you leaving the window open for a Congress-JDS alliance?
No, when they can't reach 112, even JDS plus Congress, then what is the question? What is the fun in just having a talk with Congress or JDS?
How will this impact BJP's prospects in 2019, sir?
See, this is an indication. This is the semi-finals. Next is the final. If we win in the semi-final, certainly final will be in our
Right now, you're confident of winning in the semi-finals?
100%. You can see the results now. It is going up and up. Now we have already crossed 112. I hope that we may reach up to 120.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
As of now, the tally is indicating that BJP is emerging as the single largest party. Are they likely to cross the halfway mark on a standalone basis? For that, you really have to wait. And again, these are state elections where 5,000 votes, 10,000 votes do matter, as those cards would be plugged in more. Suddenly areas, localities, lanes, they really matter because they can really influence 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 seats. I mean, in a municipal election, the verdict, the gap between the winner and the loser could be 5,000. In an assembly election, it could be as low as 25,000. It's only in general elections the swing could be in lakhs, but things could change. As of now, the tally is saying that BJP is leading, but they may need outside support. Nilesh, the challenge with this kind of an environment is that if you're an investor, you would say, why risk your capital in a market where earnings are at best mixed, valuations are expensive, and you have a political risk in next 6 to 12 months? Could that be a limiting factor for portfolio allocators and for those who currently want to invest, but they perhaps are looking for, they are in two minds?
Well, so clearly the strategy in this kind of an environment is that clearly if you look at, of course, basically market and frontline valuations and the fact that the next 1 year is a calendar packed of elections, clearly those are a set of headwinds for somebody who's really looking at, you know, a horizon of less than maybe a year or so. But all along the way, you will definitely have pockets where growth is better than the average, where valuations may not be super attractive, but valuations are reasonable. And that if you have any kind of event related risks which play out, then that gives only an opportunity for an investor to basically only add to his allocation. So the way it is that I think for a long-term investor, there's no way that he can be out of the market. You could keep tweaking your allocations bit here and there, trying to take, they're trying to make the most of any short-term opportunities. But otherwise, clearly, the long-term India growth story is very, very much intact. India has always remained a relatively expensive market vis-a-vis most emerging markets. So to that extent, and India never fits into the classical value kind of a theory where you get, where you get the entire market at single-digit PE valuations. That really has never happened, at least in the last 20 or 25 years. So clearly, this is basically, India is a market for a growth investor. This is a market where somebody really says, okay, where is basically the runway of growth for the next maybe 5 or 10 years, and accordingly he should be in those kind of sectors and those kind of businesses and see and spot those kind of companies which will really be at the forefront of this very, very strong and long-term growth. So I think that's really the best way to approach Indian equity markets, and not just look at headline P multiples or some of the event related risks.
Well, 10,900 here on the Nifty already. It was 800 yesterday. It's been a 100-point move ever since then. The broader market strength is back, although the broader markets have also bled a lot month to date. But today you're seeing a decisive move in favor of the advances. So it's a beautiful breadth that you're staring at, well in favor of the green line right now. It's BEML, it's Suzlon, BHEL, JSW Steel, NCC. Very unusual list of gainers within the F&O markets. And from within the Nifty, it's a Bajaj Finance, it's a Tata Steel, it's a Titan, it's Hindalco, there's ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, Yes Bank. So you'd have to say within the Nifty, it's a mix of banks along with metals which are really leading from the front. And Nilesh, that's been the standout factor month to date, right? While broader markets have bled, it's really been return of the large caps. They're the ones which are dominating the ticker screen right now. What, according to you, would be the texture of the market from now up until May 2019, a year hence? Would you say that the favor and the tilt of the market would continue to favor the large caps as we try and balance the political landscape on one end, the general elections, the state elections in the run up to it, and the micros as well as worsening macros?
Well, it's quite possible that headwinds for basically the mid-cap space could still continue for a few more months, or maybe even for the next 2 or 3 quarters or the rest of this calendar year. And I wouldn't say it's too much to do with fundamentals or valuations. What we have to keep in mind at the backdrop of the underperformance of mid-caps is that in general there seems to be some bit of risk aversion which has crept in for both domestic investors as well as global investors. FIIs have been net sellers. There has been some reorganization or restructuring of some of the mutual fund schemes because of regulatory reasons, and that's also kind of led to some bit of unwinding in some of the mid-cap names. So it's quite possible that this is a process which is underway and could last for slightly more longer time. But that's really where the value is going to get created in the mid-cap space. And over the long term, we believe that mid-caps as a basket will deliver superior earnings growth and therefore provide a superior risk-adjusted upside. So it's quite possible that we might see some underperformance from mid caps, maybe even for the rest of this calendar year. But we believe that post that phase, you could actually see a very, very strong outperformance of mid caps coming back into play, especially as we come towards the close of this calendar year. We would all be kind of discussing the opinion polls on 2019 elections, and if there is basically even a very strong indication that this government is going to come back to power in 2019, or that there is going to be a decisive outcome in favor of a single government, then you would actually see the risk of trade going away and a risk on trade re-emerging as we saw in 2014, and that's what is going to lead to again the outperformance of mid caps resuming. So clearly our hypothesis continues that we remain in a bull market, and in a bull market you could have small periods of underperformance of mid caps, but clearly I think over years of a bull market, mid caps tend to outperform and outperform significantly.
The case, but if you just go by the numbers thus far, we're already looking at risk on coming back because the index is now closing into 10,900 and is already factoring in a BJP-led government in Karnataka. The final numbers will come in I think, a matter of a few minutes, but we are already in a bit likely to show our viewers some celebration footage at the BJP office in Bangalore. So Nilesh, do you think that if these results are seen as a prelude to what may come by in the general elections of 2019, and if Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh also reinforce that positioning of the BJP at the center, then that would just mean the market going into a zone of its own? Or do you think the market internals led by global cues can still peg back the upside from here, irrespective of politics? So as long as there's political stability, it's fine, but the upside will still be capped.
Clearly, what is going to be really central, I think, in the very short term, of course, is going to be the outcome of these elections, and of course, what really happens with global liquidity and how the global mood is. That's what is basically going to decide basically how the course of this market for the next 2 or 3 months. It's quite likely that this market is going to face resistance at those previous highs that we saw at the start of the year. But come to kind of July, I mean, once we are done with this quarter and come to July, it's again going to be on 2 or 3 things. One is, how elevated does crude remain at that point of time? 2 is, what is really the progress on the monsoon? Are we heading in for a normal monsoon? Are we heading for a monsoon which is well distributed across the country? And 3rd, of course, is basically that we all have been expecting FY19 to be the year of revival of double-digit earnings growth. And I clearly believe that the June quarter results would be an important test, or the first test of whether that hypothesis is turning out to be true or not. So clearly, I think by the time we get into July, it's going to be about earnings, it's going to be about crude oil, it's going to be about the progress of monsoon, and things like global liquidity, global sentiment, and the state elections will surely take a backseat by then.
I wonder why is HUL or Titan, or why some of these stocks continue to command that premium. Do you think it's a matter of time some of these stocks may enter into time and price wise correction, or it is lack of options and little bit of earnings recovery and rural uptick which will continue to drive these stocks higher?
Yeah, clearly I think, Nikunj, you've kind of in a way summarized it pretty well. Clearly yet growth has not come in across the board. Growth is still restricted to a few pockets, and it is getting restricted to the leaders. Very clearly, if you look at, for example, some of these segments which you alluded to, it's clearly the number 1, number 2 player which are demonstrating strong double-digit growth versus really the rest of the players. So clearly, that's really where the liquidity is in a way flocking towards. It's flocking towards the larger players, the number 1, number 2 players, and clearly where in those kind of sectors where there is double-digit growth. And this is something which could kind of remain, and especially in an environment where there is some element of a risk of trade, clearly liquidity tends to stick with quality and with the larger names versus the smaller names. So clearly that's where the phenomena is right now. But as the economic momentum picks up, and as the broader set of companies come in with earnings growth, you would again see liquidity going back into those tier 2, tier 3 names. So clearly believe that right now this is a function of the actual performance as well as basically the mood in the marketplace.
Such a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you once again for taking time out from your busy schedule and chatting with us.